Today, with this burger, I'm getting a little bit unconventional. No grilling, no frying, just the power of hot water. I'm taking some inspiration from the legendary Connecticut steamed cheeseburger, but I'm also kind of doing my own thing. But one thing's for sure, there will be an obscene amount of ooey gooey melted cheese. This is the first in a series of increasingly weird burgers, so if you don't want to miss the rest, hit the subscribe button. And for now, let's get snacking. So I'm starting out with a nice thick ground beef patty. From what I've read, typically Connecticut steamed cheeseburgers use a leaner beef blend than regular burgers. So this is about a 90 to 10% beef to fat ratio. We'll see how that goes. Often these are made in special steamer boxes where the beef sits in its own special little tray, but obviously I don't have that kind of equipment, so I'm just going to DIY a bit of a burger tray with some aluminium foil. I'm building up the sides by crumpling the foil, and that should make a nice little tight-fitting tray for the burger so that it can sit and steam in its own juices. But before we get to steaming, I'm first going to season this. Typically these burgers aren't seasoned, they're just steamed as they are, but because we're not browning the beef like usual, I kind of feel like we need to make up for that by adding a little bit of extra flavor. So I'm sprinkling on some simple seasoning mix. This is a mix of salt, black pepper, paprika, and garlic powder. And that should just give it that little flavor boost that I think it's going to need. So some of that seasoning goes on both sides, and then this beef is ready for the steamer. Next, I'm preparing the cheese, and we're certainly not going to skimp on the quantity. Here I've got a block of cheddar cheese that's about 80 grams. That should be a nice generous amount to give us that beautiful creamy overflow of melted cheese. That's just going in a heat-proof dish, and that's ready for the steamer too. I'm using a bamboo steamer over a wok full of boiling water. If you don't have a steamer set up like this, you can probably make one out of things you've got around the kitchen. Something like a big pot of water and a colander, or a strainer on top of a saucepan with a bowl over the top would work just fine too. So I'm putting the beef and the cheese in the steamer, covering that up and leaving it over a gentle heat to steam for about 15 minutes. But while we wait for that to steam, let's prepare the rest of the burger. For the bun, this time around I'm going for a simple, sturdy sesame seed roll. Normally I would toast my buns, but I didn't think that would really work with the whole steamed burger vibe, so this time I'm leaving them untoasted. Onto our untoasted buns, I'm putting some mayo. I'm using Japanese Kewpie mayonnaise, but pick whatever mayonnaise you like. And in addition to the mayonnaise, I'm going in with some ketchup and some yellow mustard. These are essentially the base components to a burger sauce. I'm just layering them on separately instead of mixing them together. But they should all combine in each bite to give a lovely balance of flavors. And for the rest of the toppings, I'm keeping it pretty simple. I'm going in with some lettuce that's fresh from the garden, a couple of different colors just because it looks nice, and I'm taking my time with this and carefully placing the lettuce with the frilliest bits of the leaves pointing out because I think that will look the most aesthetically pleasing. And I do need to get a good looking photo for the video thumbnail. The only other topping I'll add in addition to the lettuce is a few sliced dill pickles. These will add a little bit of freshness and crunch, a touch of sweetness, and a good hit of acidity to help cut through the richness of the burger and all of that melty cheese. Speaking of which, let's check the steamer. And I think that's looking pretty good. The cheese is all completely melted and liquefied, and the burger is fully cooked through but still really juicy. And now it's time to assemble. And I'm really liking how the spice rub on that beef patty has made it look a little bit like the burger's been browned, even though it hasn't actually seen a hot pan. Otherwise, I think this would be looking a bit grey and unappealing. And then on with what I think is going to be the star of the show, that great big lump of melted cheese. It should slide out of the dish quite easily, and then I'm trying to make sure it's positioned nice and central on top of the burger to make sure that it doesn't just slip off one side and instead oozes over the burger nice and evenly. And I don't know about you, but I think that looks pretty damn good. Then we'll carefully place the top bun on top, making sure that we don't lose any lettuce or pickles. And that is our juicy, beefy, super cheesy steamed cheeseburger. I think it looks pretty unreal. Let's give it a try. And I have to say, Even with the unconventional cooking methods, this is an excellent burger. The slightly leaner beef patty works just fine, there's absolutely plenty of big beefy flavor, and the moist cooking environment has kept it really juicy. The lettuce and pickles give it some nice freshness, texture, and balance, but really, for me, it's all about that melty cheese. I usually go for American cheese on burgers because it melts so beautifully, and tend to avoid things like cheddar just because they don't have the same melting properties. But with this technique, you can take a cheese like cheddar and render it completely molten and melted and gooey, and it's super satisfying. It's got all the big cheesy flavor that you want with that gooey melted texture that works so well on a burger. I am a little bit surprised, but this technique has actually turned out a really amazing burger. And although this may have been a little bit quirky, it's only the first in a series of increasingly out there burgers. So if you're interested in that, hit subscribe for more. The next one should be up really soon. I'll link it here when it's done. Until then, here's another video that YouTube thinks that you'll like. And until next time, stay steamy and happy snacking.